This week in Helldivers has been special. We're rooting out dissidents, Reddit is at war with pretty much everyone, we've got a new Warbond dropping in 72 hours, the Helldivers 2 movie has already hit the scene, and the studio's CEO has taken to gaslighting the community. And that's just part of what we got to see this week. In case you're new here, please hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell as we take a look back on the week that was Helldivers. Alright, I've got to say that I've been with this game since the early days, and I've never seen a set of dispatches come rolling in quite like these. Now in the past, we've seen less ammo on resupplies over on Osha-Une, but right now, 25% less ammo on drops, stim rations reduced by 1, and even the orbital smoke strike cooldown now being increased by 30 seconds, all while having the Helldivers root out dissidents is something we've never seen. Outside of there, we've got about 46,000 brave Helldivers logged on this fine Saturday morning, with nearly 50% of those all hitting New Stockholm in Illuminate territory. With 4 days to go on this major order to liberate more than we lose, the Helldivers will not only have to take New Stockholm, but then somehow snag Naya 5 and finally over to Afoye Bay to complete that requirement on the major order. I'll probably put in some work later today in Squidsville just to see how they are performing, but with the past Lev and Flesh Mob changes, overall, the Illuminate got way more interesting. Now, if the performance can also stay solid, we may finally have 3 factions to consistently go up against. Speaking of factions, with everything going on currently within the game, with this entire focus on rooting out dissident behavior, it's got the community doing some good old-fashioned tinfoil hat speculating, including PCGamer. Quote, Helldivers 2 has players excited about the chance of a rogue 4th faction after Super Earth declares a war on dissidents. Now, besides the Helldivers being ordered to take Afoye Bay so that construction on this mega city-sized center for the containment of dissidents can be constructed, there's another element to what could be the introduction of this faction, that being PvP. With the gist of this being that the Helldivers would be ordered to go, I don't know, toe-to-toe with this rogue 4th faction, possibly controlled by the Illuminate. So basically, you would have these mind-controlled dissidents in the ranks that are there to kind of screw things up. As PCGamer puts it, quote, that also contains the delicious possibility that Helldivers may all think they're on the right side of the fight even when they're doing the bidding of evil commie space aliens. The question is, would you like to see a rogue 4th faction dropped into the game like this, as in not an actual colored zone on the map with definable planets and battlegrounds to fight over, but more, the Helldivers would be sent to already known and held planets to terminate our own in the name of rooting out dissidents? Yeah, interesting thought, right? Drop a comment with your best ideas on how to introduce and drop into the game this rogue 4th faction. We've been tasked with these purge-style missions in the past, even pushing the automatons clear off the map, but as I think about it, that feels like ages ago. I honestly don't know how this would work best, but, you know, like being sent to, say, Crimsica on an eradicate mission, but instead of bugs, it would be mind-controlled Helldivers running around like voteless. I'd have to think on it. But again, drop a comment and let's see where the community lands on this interesting 4th faction question. Kind of staying in the same vein, we actually do have a bit of a faction war currently going on, albeit outside of the game. And since the Helldivers are currently tasked with rooting out dissident behavior, it's time to live this one out in real life. So make sure your helmets are buckled on tight as we next jump to Reddit. Quote, hot take, this shit did irreversible damage to the game's player count, and any creators who took part should be kicked off the program. We went from 400,000 players to 20,000 players in a couple of months. In Erevan's case, he didn't even provide receipts for his claims and was caught lying about several things, and it was just taken as gospel by thousands of people and, all caps here, prominent creators. And in this post has a bunch of YouTube video thumbnails with the titles, including one of mine, and now that I look it over, it doesn't even seem that they watched a second of my video, which makes total sense when I show you one of his comments, but Anyways, at this point, this entire post has been locked by the Reddit mod, so all you can do is look it over. And when you dive into the comments, you really start to see how misinformed some of these people really are, especially this series here. And just listen to this as they comment about Arrowhead and then turn their ire over to me. So here's where the series starts. It says, Arrowhead was always giving away misinformation of unreleased stuff, as well as leaking the data mined information on weapons and such, which AH said they didn't want their creators to share. Dude is just dense and couldn't let go like he should have. AH didn't owe him shit. And then they somehow drag me into this. Yeah, which is also what LtBuzzLitebeer did to get kicked from the program. I'm just a Redditor, and no, AH hates spoiler content. By the way, this comment here has 112 upvotes, okay? But then someone actually tries to spend the time to fact check these people, because if any of these people had watched my video about why I was banned, they would know that is not the reason I was banned, but they clearly didn't. Here's what this person said. No. Wasn't it about him posting somebody's article or something like that? He never mentioned anything about leaked content. I'm pretty sure you made that up. And for their troubles, this person, Programmer Deer 5214, gets 21 downvotes from Reddit. So first, let me stop right here, cue up the music, and say, Programmer Deer 5214, you were fighting an uphill battle versus overwhelming odds, and frankly, your charge up the hill into the teeth of enemy gunfire never stood a chance, but you looked down the barrel of certain death and doom, and you made that effort anyways. Okay, seriously, Programmer Deer 5214, you are one of the real ones. And if you ever find yourself over in Discord, look me up so I can pass along a little thanks for the effort and give you a, let's call it a participation award. Now, if these posts had taken the time to watch my videos and then post something that I was booted from the Propaganda Commanders program for posting leaks, we would be at DEFCON 1. Like, there's no hope for these people. But it looks like kind of par for the course these days when it comes to commenting in 2025. Just say whatever and agree so you feel accepted. But what I will say about this hot take, blaming content creators for the game going from 400,000 players down to 20,000 in a couple of months, is that this is a total and complete pipe dream to think that creators have that much influence. When I would guess that the vast majority of Helldivers don't even watch YouTube. They don't comb through Discord, Facebook, or Twitter either. If anything, the game lost that many players not because of Takibo, Arrowhead, Clay, Buzz, Thick, Cloud, or Odo, but instead because Into the Untested was horribly broken. The enemies were busted, the performance of the game fell to total shit, and people just got tired of trying to fight the game in an attempt to enjoy the game. Anyways, hopefully that performance issue gets a shot of positivity next week, and speaking of the future, or at least the near future, the Python Commandos trailer dropped earlier this week, and I put in a lot of time producing and editing a full breakdown video to help kind of keep you in the know. But of course, in this trailer, we saw we were getting new armor sets, along with a new passive, a combo assault rifle with an underbarrel grenade launcher, a two-handed chainsword, my personal favorite so far, the Flame Guard Dog, and what seems to be creating a lot of discussion within the community, the M1000 Maxi Gun, aka the Minigun. Fandomwire dove into the Maxi Gun debate with this headline, quote, Helldiver 2's new minigun isn't even out yet, and it already has the community going to war over it. Helldiver 2's new M1000 Maxi Gun is sick, but it's also gotten the community debating whether we should be able to move while shooting it. Now, we've seen everything about this topic of realism being applied to the M1000 Maxi Gun, as in it gets sprinkled in here and there, usually when it's used to create a negative effect towards a Helldiver, with further subtopics being the unrealistic spool-up time of a half second. But the big dividing line here so far has been the fact that while firing the Maxi Gun, a Helldiver has to brace their stance and therefore cannot move. DRG is being brought into the discussion, and how you can move with the minigun in that game, and so on, and I'm sure you'll see some comments that are both pro and anti-movement. But the more I look it over, the movement, or lack of movement in this case, the medium armor pen, and everything that's involved with the Maxi Gun, and I'm just speaking about me and knowing my playstyle here, I probably will try out the minigun when it comes out, but it doesn't really fit my way of playing Helldivers. Know what I mean? I like to move. aggro, engage, and flank, and anything that gives me a set of concrete shoes, even if it turns out to be really powerful, is something I tend to not use. But you know, who knows? We'll see what the minigun is all about in T-minus 72 hours or so. Also, did any of you notice the artwork for the Python Commandos Warbond, specifically the ancient ruins with the vote list kind of staggering out of the background? Well, this may be a part of a bigger narrative from back in early October, where the Ministry of Science had identified weird phenomena in the vicinity of ancient Illuminate structures dating well back before the First Galactic War. These included things like space-time disruptions, much like we saw with the Meridian Singularity, while other structures have been found on planets the Illuminate currently control. So, who knows? This may be the start of an interesting story arc involving ancient squid lore, and could play even more into that fourth faction, dissident mind control narrative. And what would a weekly Helldivers roundup be without another Arrowhead CEO sighting? And Shams Georgiani has been posting up a storm over on Discord, but I received this specific series here from several of you via DM, so here you go. This one starts off with Shams stating that it was not the studio's intention to be shady by not including certain items in the patch notes, and to be clear, we are talking about the Coyote and all the alterations that were made to the internals of the game surrounding the weapon, not directly changing its stats, but effectively changing how it interacted with much of the game. To which this Discord member responded, quote, "Even with the very particular fire changes that affected only one gun, the one you were making jokes with, how it's not going to be changed? Yeah, that was awkward." Which then earned this response from Shams. Beyond specific weapon changes being a system-driven game, there's the whole domino effect of changing one system. What you perceive as Weapon X is the combination of system A, B, C, D interacting. So sometimes it's hard to track everything fully and share clearly with you all. Alright, I covered this extensively back when it happened, and I'm just going to be calling a spade here, but this comment from Shams is entirely tone deaf. And some of you may not agree with me, and that's okay, we can still be friends at the end of the day, but dropping this, it's a systems-driven game and it's hard to track everything fully into the conversation, is a full-on attempt to deflect, and it's nothing more than that. I'm saying this now, just like I said it back then, but the cover-up and lies were 1,000 times worse than the actual crime. I mean, it's one thing to forget to drop into the patch notes that a weapon had picked up an additional 7 durable damage, or maybe it now only has 3 spare mags instead of 4, but it's another thing entirely to raise the fire status levels on certain enemies so they become harder to set on fire, lower the status power of fire on those enemies, while also making the most common enemies that you would normally use the Coyote against even more durable, saying slightly instead of actually giving percentages here, and to forget to put all of this into the patch notes. I mean, that's a little bit more than just a little oopsie. Not to mention that whole weird show the devs put on during the weapons change vlog. Where did you put the Coyote changes? I don't know. I can't find them. Oh wait, we forgot to change the Coyote. Wow, that's weird. That was kind of seen as poking fun at the community. And it took the community discovering the changes as they started appearing on the wiki to see the unpublished alterations. We then called out the studio for lying, and that earned us an admission from Nicholas on the dev livestream, admitting to the tough internal struggles the studio went through as it did its best to not destroy the Coyote. I guess what I'm saying here is we all saw what was done. We could see the back-end changes, and we've now seen the studio admit to lying about those changes. So at this point, why does Arrowhead's CEO feel the need to gaslight the community with corpo developer lingo? Trying to change the narrative around the Coyote is not going to work. Just face the firing line, admit that mistakes were made, and stop with these system-driven discussions because, yeah, it's not working. Or at least, that's my 2 cents. I mean, does the Coyote now requiring 1 more bullet to set common enemy types on fire absolutely squash and kill the game? No. But the entire build-up and show they put on left a serious feeling of distrust within the community, and it's high time that Arrowhead starts walking that difficult path to redemption. I'd also like to throw in here that Plot Coalition's Helldivers 2 movie is now live over on YouTube for all to see. It's killing it, and I've really enjoyed the 20 minutes or so I've been able to squeeze in. By the way, I'll include a link to the video down in the video description, along with links to all of today's sources. And by the way, a huge GG's goes out to the entire team over there. You ladies and gents are killing it. As always, drop me a comment about anything Helldivers, and I'll do my best to respond. Please hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell so you never miss one of my future upload alerts. Thank you so much to our current channel members, and if you are interested in joining the ranks, please look for the join button. I'm saying join a lot over on the homepage, as we have tiers and perks there to suit everyone. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer signing off.